Break of violence in the Middle East. Overnight, Palestinian militants and Israeli forces exchanged rockets and missiles after several days of clashes centered on one of Islam's holiest sites in Jerusalem. Elizabeth Palmer is following all this for us. Liz, good morning to you.
Good morning. Well, I can tell you that the situation is still very tense as we speak. In fact, there hasn't been this level of violence and confrontation since 6 days of heavy fighting back in 2019. Hamas rockets streaking from Gaza toward Israel lit up the night sky. And so did the glow of Israeli retaliatory airstrikes. Israel says it hit Hamas military targets, but this morning, Gazans inspected collateral damage, property, and in the past 24 hours of widespread violence, say Palestinian authorities, more than 400 were wounded and 24 killed. In Israel, air raid sirens wailed last night, warning people to take cover. Because so many of the incoming rockets were intercepted, there was minimal damage, but multiple deaths. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the fact that the rockets were aimed at Jerusalem crossed a red line. Israel, he said, would respond with great force. There were several flashpoints last night. In the West Bank, groups of Palestinians threw rocks at Israeli police who fired back stun grenades. And there were similar skirmishes at the ground zero of these clashes, the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Yesterday, the fourth day of violent protests, a group of Palestinians barricaded themselves inside the mosque compound, and police grenades landed inside the mosque itself after Ramadan prayers. This all began almost a month ago, when especially young Palestinians were angered by Israeli limits on Ramadan gatherings.
Now, since the beginning of Ramadan, they have escalated to the point of absolute provocation for Palestinians everywhere.
Adding fuel to the fire is the planned eviction of several Palestinian families from homes in East Jerusalem that the Israeli courts have ruled belong to Jews. And as I said, the fighting is continuing this morning. More rockets have been fired at Israel, and our colleague inside Gaza tells us that people there are braced for war. Gail?
Thank you, Elizabeth Palmer in London.
All right, now, brothers, one thing I want to point out is that this here attack, bear in mind that this came I believe it was days after they kicked out so-called black Hebrew Israelites out of Israel. So, hey, you do the math spiritually. Now, bear in mind, we don't call each other black Hebrew Israelites. We're just simply Hebrew Israelites. So it's crazy how, anybody gets kicked out anywhere, But we know what they're judging it based upon, man, the skin color and things like that, man. But it's all good, man. So it says Israeli armed forces and Palestinian militants exchanged rocket fire on Tuesday as days of fighting centered around one of the holiest sites in the world for the Muslims, Jews, and Christians snowballed into one deadly flare-up and decades-long conflict. Bloodshed was likely to get worse as both sides indicated that they would escalate at their tracks. Now, without even going into anything, I'm just going to go straight into the book of Revelation. And I know exactly where I'm going. Okay, this is Revelation 21. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. And there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Now, did we see that happen with the Balfour Declaration of 1948? No. So who are those people over there? Gee, I wonder who. I don't know. Could be anybody, right? Yeah, use your head, brothers. Well, you brothers know what it is, man, but use your head, people. It says, verse 3, and I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle, which is the house of God, is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death. You see that? Now that's the key point right there. There shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying. Neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. So when the real true Israelites go back to that land, there will be no more death. What was the death toll if you paid attention to the video? 24 people dead. So who are those people? We report, you decide, you know what it is. Shalom, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, Barakatham, which means in the name of the Heavenly Father and His Son, bless you of the hopeful elect. I'm going to add on, Shalom.